Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is January 6th, and I am so glad to be with you today and looking at the text that we have been given for our reading today. Now, remember, yesterday I went in for a half of a verse and concentrated on that. Today, we're going big. I'm actually want us to look at Genesis 18, 19, and 20 as a big chunk, because I want us to look at a few things about the reading that are big to notice about the Word of God itself and for us to see. Okay, first thing. Some of you are really new here and don't know me well. On the days I'm not on here teaching, I am teaching at my church's private school. I'm a humanities teacher. I teach Bible. This year, teach Bible to middle schoolers. I teach English composition, world literature, and I'm a world history teacher too. And yeah, I love Jeopardy. There you go. So that's what I do. And so I want us to look from the English teacher or composition teacher, because I know we have people from all over the world in here with us. Composition. To look at 18, 19, and 20, the chapters, because we're going to see this specifically. We'll see it again a couple more times in the book of Genesis. So it's very interesting to look at, knowing that the people that went in and put chapter and verse in the Bible did it where the natural storyline stopped and would pick up to another story. And sometimes it helps us to read it all in one chunk, which is great that we have 18, 19, and 20, because I think on our own we might have separated it and read them separately. If we read all of that together as one story, it says we see some things. First thing I want us to look at is a compare and contrast. That lovely paper that you probably wrote somewhere in the days either you loved writing or hated writing, that you had to write a compare and contrast paper. What you see really in 18 and 19 is a compare and contrast paper between the character, like not character as in fake person, but character, virtue, traits of Lot and Abraham. So because what you see is, I know, because we like to use a slang term here, we like to throw Lot under the bus and talk about what a horrible person he is and all of these things. But I want you to slow down for a little bit. And a very wise Bible teacher I had one time told me that, slow down, take a look at what you're learning. That's what's so hard in historical book like Genesis, is we just want to flow with the storyline and seeing what is God teaching us about the character of people and the character and his character. God's, what we would call his attributes. What are we learning about him? And so what you need to see is the compare and contrast. Okay, in Genesis 18, you see Abraham in a very, I can't say this word, rural area, and he's visited by angels. And go back and read and notice how his interaction with them, his hospitality, his care for his guests, all of those things. Because as much as, the whole Sodom and Gomorrah and everything that's going to happen there, Lot treats the strangers the exact same way Abraham did. He learned something from Abraham. Remember, he is Abraham's family. And look at how, so now we're in an urban area. It says Lot is sitting at the city gates. We could go a big time into what does that mean is Lot. What that means is Lot is a big guy in the city. He's well known. He's sitting at the gates. But we see with both of these guys, we have a rural and an urban setting, but through both of them, you see generous hospitality. You see them serving their guests. You see that. Where did Lot learn all of that? He'd been with Abraham all of this time. So it's a very thing for us to see, compare and contrast. And then we know, if you're reading through this and you see the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, You see what happens with Lot's wife, and then you see what happens when Lot gets drunk with his daughters, or his daughters get him drunk, and the horrible things. I say this about the Bible because right now I taught the Bible to high school students last year. This school year I'm teaching middle school students, and I've had to tell parents before, the Bible is not G-rated. The Bible is R-rated, actually, and I'm having to teach it in a G or PG. Some of my students I can't even go to PG-13 with. And so this is one of those lessons I would say, this next section, go talk to your parents. And so I get lots of messages from parents. Thanks, Mrs. Nance. I was like, listen, I'm opening up dialogue in your home about the Word of God. It's great. But as we're seeing this, what we need to see too is there are two sons that come from this horrible, between Lot and his daughters. You have Moab and Ammon. Now, the descendants of the descendants of Abraham will treat these people horribly, but God always remembers they're Abraham's family, and he will hold them accountable for what they do. But this whole situation that happens here will explain a lot of the stuff when we get to the book of Ruth, and we'll talk about it then. But we see all of that. We also see, we're like, okay, Abraham prays for Lot, and Lot is rescued. All of these things happen. But then comes that tricky chapter 20. Abraham lies. And God protects Abimelech from Abraham's lie, his mercy upon him, his care for Abimelech, and does not allow Abimelech to sin because God had a plan. And man, could we go far on that lesson right there about what God did not allow to happen because he had made a promise to, it's good stuff. It's just good stuff. And we'll get there in one of these years. But for right now, I want us to see that we need to remember as we're going through here that you're like, oh, Abraham, look what he did for Lot. But then he's going to mess up and he's going to lie and he don't want himself to be hurt. So he lets stuff happen to his wife and lies about that. And we'll continue to see that to be a family issue. So we see all of that. So you're like, oh, Abraham, why'd you do that? Okay, here we go again. Abraham's not the hero of the story. So often we set up especially Old Testament people on a pedestal, and we're scared to say anything they do is wrong because they're in the Bible. God does not give commentary on their actions. He expects us to read it and say, hey, Abraham, what were you doing? That was wrong. If we know the character of God, we should be able to look at a story like that and say, Abraham, lying is wrong, treating your wife like that is wrong, and all of these things. God expects us to know that when we read here, because who is always the hero of the story? God. God has made a promise. He will make his promise happen. No matter what his people mess up, they're not going to mess up his plan. And as we read through the Word of God, we need to remember that from all of these lined up together, what do we need to know? We need to know that God's wrath against sin is righteous. He's the only one that has a righteous wrath. My pastor has a great sermon about that. We're not capable of having righteous wrath. We always have an agenda. God's wrath is righteous. And his wrath against sin in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah is righteous. It's right what he does. God's mercy in rescuing people from destruction. Did Lot deserve to be rescued from Sodom and Gomorrah? No, he didn't. He's rescued because Abraham interceded on his behalf. Do we deserve to be rescued from the penalty of our sin? No, we don't. Jesus Christ stepped in and took it for us. Jesus is not a New Testament story. Jesus is a story of the entire Bible from the very beginning. From Genesis 3:15, we see his first Redeemer promise. And now we see the picture laid out before us of destruction, but someone that deserves the destruction doesn't get it. And we'll see that because that's called mercy. And God is a God of mercy. God's judgment is certain. Sodom and Gomorrah deserved judgment, and the judgment came. So there's never, my best friend says it this way, you are not the first, if you think you're going to get away with sin, you are greatly mistaken. You're not the first person that's going to get away with it. Every sinner deserves judgment. God sees and God knows. But he is also merciful. He is a God of love. And we see all of that before us. So always remember that God is the hero of the Bible. When we don't understand something that happens in the Bible, always look at the text and say, what am I learning about God here? Not the people, but about God. And that's a great way as we read through the Word this year to remember. I'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.